Please join me on the summer tour. Because I only do tours every 3 months or so, there's quite a lot of changes goes on in between. So when I'm filming now, where there is gaps, if I've got previous video or stills, I'll pop those in over the top so you can actually see what's been there and what's been harvested. So without wasting any more time, let's crack on. Right, we'll start off with the candle tanks. Got 6 in total. 5 of them are sweet candle, and the one on the end there is Autumn King 2. That needs to be thinned out at the moment, but all in all, looks a good year for the carrots, except for maybe the middle one there, where we had a visit from the fox about 4 or 5 weeks ago and wrecked a few carrots, but what's left are coming on. Anyway, that's the carrots. Luckily, no carrot root fly at the moment. Moving on to this bed here, you may recall this was the one we had the garlic in. Mixed results. Elephant garlic was good, but the normal garlic was absolute rubbish. Anyway, I fetched all that out, dug it over, revitalised it with a bit of bloodfish and bone. And in here now I've put some winter cabbages in there. There's a January King and Savoy called Ormskirk, interplanted with a few lettuce Tom Thumb and also a couple of more, 5 beetroot, and then the choggy, yeah, that's it, that's the one. Just let that train go by. This is my flower bed, mixture of cosmos, dahlia, zinnia, and I've got a few little tiny mini sunflowers in there called teddy bear. I've never grown them before. Start of the show on this one is the sweet peas, and these are the Hilda's mix. Picking these quite regular and then flowering the hearts out, so hopefully those are going to go on for another few months. That's the Hilda's mix sweet peas. Let's have a look in the veggie pod. This is the second planting of the veggie pod, and it more or less looks after itself. Open it up. Got some beetroot in here, some more choggia. Then we're just bulbing up now. Some ramrod spring onions. These are really rampant. I can't believe the speed these grow. They're ready for picking again, another mass. A small row of carrots, Autumn King, which need thinning out. And bringing up the middle here is some French breakfast radish. Very happy so far the way this has performed, and it'll be interesting. So the plan is for the late autumn, early winter is to move this back into the garden and grow stuff over the next few months. Well, January onwards, and see what we get in there. Anyway, let's move on to the next of the big beds. This big bed here is the onion bed, and I've got the Enviromesh cover on there, so I don't really want to undo the cover. I'll do a bit of filming when I go into weed and I'll superimpose it. It's mixed results in here. The big onions, like the Kelsey's and the Robinson's Mammoth, are doing fairly well, but they're very, very slow bulking up. In the middle bed there, I've got some tough ball onions. Them are the little 8-ounce onions. And earlier on in the year, we had 2 or 3 days of heavy rain, and I'd left the cover off, and it absolutely flattened the onions. Now, they've never picked up them completely flat on the floor. There was half an hour away from a trip to the compost bin, but I noticed that them started bulbing up, and now them just under a tennis ball size. So I might just leave those in and see how they go, and the gaps in between I could use as maybe planting leeks. In this bed here, it's still got my shallots. Them are going to be coming out. They'd have been out already, but we had 2 or 3 days of constant rain, which has done us all good, but I wanted to lift these in a fairly dry state. They have bulked up nicely and split, so when these come out, the plan is to put the leeks in. And just the other side of there, I've planted out the Zabroon shallots. They've put size on, but again, for some reason they've fell over, not completely, but they've tilted over. The main thing is them still growing, so I'm just going to leave them as is. In here, this is the main potato bed. This is the saw palmyra. These are in buckets, but I've put this fence around because once these get going, they get a bit rampant and all over the place. This does keep them in a bit. They have grown very well actually, considering I haven't watered these a lot. They've relied more or less purely on the rain. But they am into a bed which is covered quite well with horse manure, and that does actually bring the moisture up. So that's the Sao Palmyra. Down on the bottom end of the potato bed, there's 12 buckets here. These are the first early swift, still in. Did harvest one originally, put it on one of the uploads. It did have a fair bit amount of scab on it, and there were all that many potatoes in. But the other two got more potatoes with less scab as well. So hopefully these will be okay. On the front there, we've got the sweet corn, variety incredible. Again, when I put those out, they seem to just stand there. However, since we've had this 3 or 4 days of decent rain, they've perked up and greened up, and I can see growth in there. So hopefully they're on the way. Moving on to this middle bed here. These are the Charlotte potatoes, my favourites. I've had a delve down and I can actually feel something in there, so I know I'm going to get something good. The foliage on this is dying down as well, so the plan is for both the Swift and the Charlottes is because the last 2 or 3 days I've had hutton alerts saying that there's blight in the area. So what I might do is actually take all the horns off completely and just leave them and harvest as we require. On the front of there I've got 4 courgettes, not sure of the variety. These was passed on to me by one of the plotholders, and I've popped those in and I can see them moving now, so looking good on there. We've already discussed the potatoes here. These are the main Sao Palmyras and doing okay. But the other thing in here for me is the sunflowers. These will be the ones taking part in the Sunflower Challenge 2020. And at the moment I'm quite happy with them. I've had to stake the 6 up in here. I've had extra metal poles in because they've grown past it. Got no signs of the heads forming yet, but hopefully that's a good sign to things to come. On this bed here is the celery. This is the Latham self-blanching. I'll probably take the covers off now. This was mainly put on as protection against the cats and the foxes, but I think them big enough now to have the covers removed. And them starting to thicken up nicely. I really must think about planting these or sowing the seeds earlier, because I could do with these being a bit high. It's always late in the season when they harvest these, and really I want them about a month earlier. In the middle bed there with the green cover on is the Swede. That's the Tweed F1. And to be honest, that's the best, well, foliage I've had at the moment. It's really good. I've had a little look underneath and I can see things forming, probably just a bit smaller than a tennis ball at the moment. But again, I'm going to remove the covers here. I'll probably put a couple of sides up there with some mesh covering and maybe a net over the top just to keep the pigeons away. And on the far side there, we've got the parsnips. They've germinated really well. I did have one station which failed. Well, it did have one in, but I think I killed it with a net. It crushed it. I re-sowed it with the same seed, compost and everything. It's still not germinated, so. But I think I've got about 32 parsnips, 31 out of 32. I'm going to be happy with that. Moving on to this middle bed here. These are mainly the outdoor tomatoes. We've got there's 8 Crimson Crush, and I think in the middle we have the Cocktail Crush. Nearly all of these now have got fruits on, and quite a few are turning red. I've been a bit delinquent in not tying these in. There's quite a few side shoots now have grown that big that they're fairly sturdy limbs, so I may actually leave them on and tie the whole unit up to the stake. In between here and all, I've got 2 rows of beetroot. This one here is called Golden Burpee. Need to have a delve down inside and have a look at that, because looking at the foliage, I should say the crop at the bottom is going to be ready for harvest quite soon. And again, in the middle of this one here, this one is called Pablo, a variety I've never ever grown before, but again, big foliage, so I need to just check, make sure it is ready for cropping. This bed here was originally the salad bed. It's got lettuce in. Some of these onions are gone to seed now, so I'll be ripping those out. I did have a really good crop of beetroot out, so in the next day or two I'm going to be clearing this out completely and I got some more winter brassicas to go in, and an extra crop of broccoli as well. So I'll be putting those in, popping the net over. This one here is the peas, and these are the Hearst green shaft. Best crop I've had by far. Unfortunately, when I lifted the cover, it was the day before we had those rainstorms and strong winds, and it did flatten the crop. But the pods have still fattened up. 8 or 10 peas in each pod. You don't get much better than that. So them are the Hearst green shaft peas. Right, we're at the Brassica Cage. It's probably aware this is divided into 3 beds, but the whole lot is full of brassicas. Right along the back of each section, I've got 5 sprout plants, Brussels sprout. There's 5, 10, 15 in there. Then in the top section, I've got the calabrese, cauliflower, cabbage, and a few other things down the bottom end. In general, the brassicas this year have been pretty poor for me, and it's all my fault. Right at the very early start of the season, maybe February, I put manure on the beds, and it was fairly fresh manure. I had got some old stuff in there, but I couldn't be bothered to do it, so I've just whacked it on here. Then I did a change around of the planting, and the brassicas actually came in here, and what I think's happened, the manure was a little bit too fresh, and it's actually burnt the roots. I did get like quite a lot of white blotches on all the crops in here, on the leaves, speckles and that. Reading up, it could be that it's too rich soil burnt them. However, with the amount of rain we've had the last few days, well, the last week or so, I've noticed the stuff starting to greening up, and most of the white stuff is now disappearing, and the plants are starting to grow. But in general, I think they have suffered. Some of them look weak, poor specimens. However, I still think we will get a crop. The cabbage are quite a mixture. There's greyhound in there and a few other things. And right at the front, I think I got about 4 or 5 kohlrabi, which was donated. Moving on to this middle bed, again, it's Brussels sprouts at the back. In the middle, cauliflower, mainly Clapton, but they are poor specimens again. And at the front, it's more kohlrabi. Onto the end bed here. This bed out of the 3 is the best, and I think this had the least manure put on. Brussels sprouts right at the back, them are going okay. In the middle is the calabrese, the Iron Man, and I've got a few florets actually ready for harvesting. And on the front of there, we've got 5 plants of Celery. So, all in all, not very happy with the brassicas, but again, it's my fault, so you got to go with the flow here. This is the temporary bean frame. On here is the French beans. I've got a mixture of Cobra and Blue Lake, and on the back here is the runner beans, and these are the Benchmaster. Again, I was late putting these out, but they've started climbing up, and I've noticed I've actually got some crops ready on the French beans. So this is on a temporary structure. I've just put the poles in and tied the canes in. The boards actually rotted round the bottom, which held the vertical uprights, the metal ones, and they started tilting. So I've done a lash up for this year. The plan is I'm going to rebuild the base along the bottom. I may use some upturned slabs as a permanent base, and the bed behind the camera as is now, I'm going to turn that into another coal frame, I think. Have a quick look in the allotment greenhouse. It's a bit of a mess in here at the moment. I've just put stuff in here to keep it dry. Looking in there, we've got our tomatoes. All these on the left hand side are the cherry tomatoes called Sweet Million. Along the back we've got a bit of a mix of cucumbers, mainly Mini Munch, but there's a couple of Carmen and I'm not sure another variety in there. Did have a little mishap on that cucumber there in the middle. Came to close the greenhouse up last night and that had wilted completely. Soil was damp, so I did look. The temperature was only 16 degrees, which was surprising really, but this end of the greenhouse is actually in shade, so it does actually get cool in there. I shut all the vents last night, closed the doors, and it actually picked up, so hopefully it'll get back to normal. Along this side We got some more tomatoes, a mixture of Crimson Crush and Cocktail Crush. So we have got a few fruits forming, which decent size they are. And I think it was the last video you saw me planting this up. It's what I call a Chilli Jungle. There's a mixture of everything in here, and they seem to have picked up quite well. You can see growth already on them. I do tend to keep the soil in the border reasonably dry because I think the chilies prefer it that way, and helps the flowers form better. But the tomatoes as is, I'm feeding these twice a week at the moment, and I do give them I probably feed them all the time because I've got a tomato food. I just put a slightest drop in the water, and that does feed them. But the main feed is twice a week, and I'm using seaweed feed for one feed and actually a high potash tomato on the other. So that's the greenhouse as is. Right, going to have a walk along now the outside and the fruit trees and car frame. Have a quick look here. This is the cherry tree. There's not a lot showing now, but earlier in the year this was absolutely laden. It's the most fruit I've ever seen on it, and to be fair, I did have 2 good crops on before the birds actually found it, but amazingly there's been quite a lot of starlings on this year, and they've actually devoured it. 2 days and I think it had almost completely gone. So that's the cherry tree. This is the Allotment russet, and you did see earlier on in the season I did give this a really good hard pruning and expected more or less nothing of it. But we have got fruits coming on here. As you can see, there is clumps of apples forming. So, you know, I'm happy with that. So, considering how much I did prune it, I was expecting more or less nothing. But what I wanted to do is actually did it so I could shape the tree, and I'm sure that is going to help it quite a lot a bit later on in the season. Coal frame here, there ain't got a lot left in here. There's 1 or 2 dahlias left, but there's a couple of more winter brassicas in there. I think there's one cabbage called Tundra, and I've still got my leeks in there, which hopefully I'm going to get out eventually in the next day or 2. Just put it up in there. This is the pear tree. Again, this had loads of fruit on, and I did lose quite a lot in the June drop, but surprising how much fruit is still left on there. You can see it actually bending the branches down. Just trying to limbo backwards a bit, and you can see there's quite a lot of fruit. If all that comes to fruition, we're going to have a decent crop. So there was quite a lot done in the June dropped, but so hopefully that's going to be good. Strawberries, disappointment this year. This crop in here, it's Cambridge Favourite. I had them from a company called Pomona Fruits. This year, I think it's the 3rd year. For some reason, these never ever lose the colour in the winter. They always stay green. And they was absolutely laden with fruit, plenty of flowers on. You may remember we had 1 or 2 little sharp frosts towards the late winter, early spring, and it actually clobbered them. I reckon I lost between 100 and 150 fruits on there. They all got the black eye in the fruit, and it just destroyed them. I've had some off, but obviously it's reduced the amount they've cropped. So that's the strawberries. In this bed here, it's me asparagus bed, and again, the story of the mole last year destroyed it. They didn't really come back this year. I think there was 16 plants in total, and I've probably got about 5 or 6 actually throw anything up. Went 2 minds. I may actually rebuild the bed come the autumn and restock it with new plants, but we've still got the mole on site, unfortunately, although I dare say he'll be down here. He has been down once, but he's mainly up the bottom end of the site, so hopefully he'll stay there. In the meantime, I've planted one of the stray sunflowers. There's the main sunflower crop there, and this is the one left over. It was in this bed actually last year with a stray sunflower I got left. But actually won the sunflower competition, and I'll just let this train go past. I've got some dahlias in here. I've put some spare ones, but the ones I had in here from last year have survived. Must have been all the straw and manure on the top. And I've also put another, the smaller ones here you can see, these are the variety called Sunzilla, and I think there's 4 or 5 in there. There's some more down there. That's it. So that's the asparagus bed. Again, this is the other tree which had a right cropping, and it's the golden delicious one, and they've still got fruits coming on, but again this had a right hacking. So it's all to actually reshape the tree in the long term. Although saying that, I have got a jazz apple tree in the back garden, and I'm in two minds whether to actually plant it on the allotment or do it as a cordon in a large tub. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Not only the tour of my plot, but also the tour of the site with Sparky. As you can see, there's been a few disappointments, but that's what keeps us gardening, coming back next year and hoping to do better. Many thanks for watching and welcome to the new subscribers. If you haven't subscribed already, have a look down the bottom corner there. There's a little red button, click on that, or it's a yellow button in my case. And click on that. There's also a bell. If you click on that, it'll let you know each and every time I upload a new video. So, more jobs to do on the plot, plenty more filming, and hopefully we'll have another video up with you soon. Until then, take care all, see ya, bye for now.